Hey all. So, my channel's been dead for a while aside for some random DCS videos, but I decided to do some knife reviews because I haven't done any type of reviews in years, it seems like now. So, after moving to Arizona, I got my first automatic knife. And I think a lot of people they probably know about the Lightning series of automatic knives. You know, they're kind of a budget automatic knife, and I love that thing. It was like a little fidget spinner, basically. So, after living in California, where stuff like that you can't really have. So when I moved to Arizona, that was one of the first knives that I bought it for, basically for fun. I carried that knife all the time, and whenever I was by myself, I don't know, flip that thing probably hundreds of times. And I actually ended up losing that knife in one of the many moves that I did. Whenever I left Arizona and moved here to Texas, I don't know what happened to that knife. It disappeared. But I ended up getting a bunch of automatic knives after buying that first one. So over the last few years, I've probably bought, let's see, I bought at least 4 for me, and then I bought one for my wife that she likes messing with them too. So they're fun. And I mean, primarily, I stayed away from the dual action knives after the Lightning for a while because I didn't really find any that I really tickled my fancy, so to speak. So I kind of stuck to the single action automatics like the Bokers here. It wasn't until, I don't know, maybe the last year or so I kind of started looking at them again. But we'll kind of get to those. But I love automatics after, dealing with them for a little while. The Boker Strike here has been my EDC knife for probably close to a year now, 2 years. And you can tell that I carry this every day because it is worn. This was originally was all black when I got it, so you can tell I carry this thing every day. And I love this one. The Strike, it's a little heavier than say like the Kalashnikovs are. It's all metal. It's got like it's an aluminum handles, aluminum liners or steel liners, I think it is. I love this buoy style blade shape too. It's good for getting into boxes and things like that. It's also a decent length for in case you had to use it for anything, say other than utility purposes. You definitely can, since the blade's a decent size. Now, I do also, as part of my EDC, I do carry this one. This is a Boker Kalashnikov. This is the spear point blade with the bronze tip. I think this combination might only be exclusive to Blade HQ. I'm not 100% sure. This is where I pretty much buy all my knives anymore. But flipping out, the Strike, it's kind of more attention getting, simply too because of the way that the blade is shaped. It gets a little more attention when you flip that thing out. So I don't always take this thing out, but most of my daily use actually comes from this little Kalashnikov. And I don't know if people know, but they make all kinds of different blades, and this is the Kalashnikov. They call it the Warhawk style. Basically because it looks like a P40 Warhawk. With the Flying Tiger scheme and stuff like that. Interesting thing between the Kalashnikov and say the Strike is that the Strike, not only is it the Strike heavier, but I tend to like the Strike a little bit more. I mean, I don't really care about the safety, but I like the fact that the release for the blade, it protrudes out of the body of the knife. I don't know, there's something about that that I prefer over the Kalashnikov, which is more it's not recessed, but it's more flush to the frame or the handle of the knife. Don't get me wrong, it's still a good knife. They're both sharp as heck out of the box, and they maintain an edge really well. Like I said, the Kalashnikov is really light, or it's a lot lighter than the Strike is, but I prefer the Strike. It's a little more my speed, I feel. But the main reason why I got to this video is like OTF knives. So this was one of my first OTF knives that I got. It's the M&P. I guess it's the OTF. It's a spring assist OTF, so you have to. You saw me activate the blade. You have to release the knife, the blade from up here, and then retract it back, and hit the button here on the front to deploy it. Now, I carried this for a while. It was my EDC, you can tell by the wear, but this is primarily, I didn't really use it as a utility blade. It was mainly defensive purposes because of it being a dagger. And I'll tell you what, this thing is freaking sharp. And that tip on this thing, I mean, you can see it. It is wicked. And this thing's, like I said, it's a good knife, but after carrying it every day and banging it around in my pockets, and you can see the button here, the only thing that's bad about this is that if you bang this frame hard enough, and the reason why I stopped carrying it is because I'm trying to do this with one hand. If you can see the blade, I didn't even hit the release, and the blade is off track. Trying to do this with one hand. See that? But I hit the spring and it came right back and locked in. But you get, if you flick your wrist a little bit, you can hear a definite audible click when the blade actually engages the lock at the end of the knife, but it doesn't always do it. So it is a little bit annoying for me. It's a cool knife, but like I said, if you carry it every day, you kind of have to be, cognizant of, and check it every so often, because like I said, if you bang this thing hard enough, like I have a few times, you actually have to get in here and bend the frame back out in order for the blade to actually come out and deploy properly. But it's still a good knife if you take care of it. But I kind of would say if you're somebody who's rough on their knives, like I tend to be on most of my stuff, you might want to take that into consideration. It's a good knife otherwise, but like I said, that tip and this edge is still freaking sharp as heck. But that kind of brings me to why I kind of went to OTF knives. I do like them. Like I said, and you combine the fact that with an automatic. This I just got from Blade HQ. This is the God, what is this? This is the Evo, the AKC Evo Extreme. And now if you look at it, it kind of has that almost Italian stiletto kind of frame, and it's also fairly reminiscent of the Infidel. And who is really going to get tired of that? I mean, I love double actions. Like I said, coming from the Lightning, which was my first double action and automatic knife, you can just sit there and mess with this all freaking day. And I got this about, a week ago, and I've been carrying it every day since. And it is lighter than, say, the M&P, but it's never come off the tracks, and it's just fun to freaking fidget with. Like I said, anybody who's got automatics that are double action like this, you're gonna know you're gonna sit here and mess with this all freaking day until you either annoy people around you or your thumb gets tired from pushing the button so many times. So but One thing I will say about this knife, for it being, I think I paid, this was, I think this was about $120. Now, for an OTF, a double action OTF, you know, when you're coming to like, it's granted there's others out there. AKC makes other knives, like the F15 or F16, I think it is, and the F20. They're cheaper than this is, obviously. I liked it because it reminded me of the Infidel. So from, God, who makes the Infidel? I can't remember offhand. But that's what it kind of reminded me of. Now, one thing I will say about this is that, you know, messing around with it, the button, I don't know if you can really hear it. You can kind of hear the spring back there, and the button is actually a little bit gritty, and it has gotten better after I've messed with it for a while. But you know, I wouldn't say it's a budget out the front knife, but it kind of is when you look at the other options that are out there. I mean, otherwise you get into like the Microtechs and things like that are $250. This is like half the price. So what are you really expecting for half the price of those other ones? I mean, it's a good knife. It's freaking light too. This aluminum handle that it's made out of seems like it's going to be pretty durable. The other thing about this handle, though, I'm not 100% keen on, and granted, this is a nitpicking thing, but these corners are sharp. They didn't do anything really to finish this. I mean, these edges here, along the edge of the knife, they're okay, but I'm telling you what, these corners up here, they are noticeably sharp. Like you can cut yourself if you're not careful. Like if you flick this out of your pocket and you accidentally drag it over a cuticle or your finger or something like that, you can definitely tell these corners are freaking sharp. But back here, I mean, it's not so much as bad on the back end of the knife, but I'll tell you what, up here, it is definitely noticeable. So I don't know, maybe, you know, and it's not real comfortable in the hand per se. Anyway, what I was saying, it is comfortable in your hand, but like I said, when you get down here towards the back here, and you get these little corners that dig into the palm of your hand, and even the pocket clip, maybe it's the edge of this, I'm not 100% sure. I think it's the pocket clip, but it digs. Yeah, it's the pocket clip. The edge of this pocket clip will dig into the palm of your hand. So, I mean, if you're wearing gloves and stuff like that, it's just, I mean, really, it's a real nitpicky thing. But when it comes into like comfortability in your hand, like if you had to use it, say defensively, that's something to take account of, because that will probably mess up the palm of your hand if you stick something or you're trying to cut something, even in a utility sense. You got to be mindful of that, because it'll probably tear your hand up. But maybe it'll just take me getting used to this thing. But that's kind of my initial impressions on this. Any of these other knives that I've carried every day, they're automatics. Definitely, with the M&P, it's a decent knife, but like I said, if you're rough on stuff, you might want to take into account of maybe looking at some of these other single action, not the spring assist opening knives, at least this particular one, because if you ding this frame or this button, it's just, there's a lot of things about it that are it's not my cup of tea. And I got nothing wrong with spring assisted knives, because I've had a lot of them over the years, as opposed to regular folders. But this particular one, it's a little finicky. Now, could it just be me not taking very good care of the knife? Maybe. But I mean, I carried it every day and beat the crap out of this thing. And, after carrying it for about 3.5 months, that's about when that stopped locking 100% whenever I would deploy the knife. And like I said, if you open it with a flick a little bit whenever you deploy it, it's a little bit better. It'll lock most of the time, but not every time. And if you're, like I said, if you're trying to carry this defensively, that's a problem in my opinion. But like I said, if you're just carrying it just to open boxes and just to mess around with, I mean, it's a fine knife. But like I said, carrying it every day, that's just something I would take into account with having something like this. That's my long-term impressions of this. Like I said, if you just have it to collect it and just to mess with it, it's still a cool knife to have. And like I said, that tip is what gets me. It's even more so than, I think it's even more so than the dagger tip on this. Yeah, for sure. This is a little more broad. This one here, though, it's a wider. It's definitely a wider blade with a more narrow tip, and but yeah, between these two, that's kind of my. I do like I said, these OTFs like this for defensive dagger types. Other people, you know, your mileage may vary with them. But like I said, if you're looking for decent autos for like every day, you know, the Boker series knives, like I said, the Strike and the Kalashnikov, you can't really go wrong with them. And depending where you get them all different. They come in all different shades, colors, blade types. So this is, I want to say the Warhawk is their spear point, but it's only single edged. You can get with better angle on this bronze tip one. But yeah, and then this is the Strike has this is the Bowie blade shape if you're curious. So yeah, that's kind of my my impressions and kind of the things that I like carrying, like what I like about automatics. And if you're looking at any of these knives, I would recommend them. The only exception being this one can be a little finicky about opening, especially like I said, if you beat on it, and if you get your finger in the way of this the spring actuator here whenever you go to open it, because if you're even a little bit in this track, you can deflect it and keep it from locking. So that's just kind of something to keep in mind. You have to open it a certain way, and like I said, it's a little finicky, but it's still a cool knife. And then obviously, you know, like I said, you can't get tired of that. So yeah, thanks for tuning in, and if you want to pick up any of these knives, I would definitely recommend. So this is the mini Kalashnikov, regular Kalashnikov, Strike, M&P OTF, I think it's called, and the AKC Extreme Evo. So yeah, thanks for tuning in.